Hello, I'm Joaquina with Modern Homemakers, and today I have another Barbie clothes pattern for you. Specifically, we're going to learn how to sew pants. Believe you me, these things were tricky. There have been many hideous pants that will never see the light of day. We had problems with gaping, we had problems with dollar store velcro. Not going to recommend that for you for Barbie. It's such a small piece of velcro, it just doesn't work if it's not the stronger stuff. So name brand velcro here. What else did we have problems with? My daughter trying to steal all the pants as I was making them so she could make them herself. So anyway, this was a long time coming, and I hope you guys enjoy this pattern. I'll put a link in the description, but as always, because I'm awesome, it's a free pattern. You can go print it off from my website, Modern Homemakers. And I don't know if I have anything else to say. I think we're gonna get right in and get started sewing, but I'll take Barbie off for a second here. And oh, before you ask, sorry, I don't have a pattern for this top, but you too can tie a piece of fabric around Barbie. I wanted to make a top pattern too, but I ran out of time, so forgive me. Maybe 2 years from now, or even sooner, maybe 2 months from now, but you know, I'm slow sometimes. Anyway, but the pattern is specifically for the pants. They have, as all Barbie patterns have, the Velcro tab that keeps it closed in the back. And anyway, it's as simple as I could make it. You know, I like to make things easy. But there's a quick panorama. Barbie can move. She looks great. And I can't believe how little this fabric that this thing uses. It's like, if you were to buy fabric, I think I measured it out. Oh, I wish I had my ruler in here. I think it wasn't even quite 1/8 of a yard, because you literally just need the patterns like this wide. So use your remnant fabric for this, use your scraps, use the stuff in your Goodwill bag that you were just gonna get rid of anyway. This should totally be a free pattern for you. But what you need is, oh, we gotta set Barbie back up over here. She's just so dreamy. Okay, you need some fabric. Now, I'm going against what I just said because I really wanted to use this that I just had laying around. So you do not need yards of this fabric though, once again. You need, some fabric, small amount. You need scissors. You need a pin cushion because, you know, who doesn't have a pin cushion? And you need a little bit of Velcro. So, what's my other thing? Oh, and I'm gonna use a sewing machine, but you know, if you wanna encourage the little girls in your life to sew, this can totally be done with hand sewing as well, and then it's not dangerous. So, get ready, we're gonna get right into it. So head on over to modernhomemakers.com and get your free pattern, and then we're gonna cut it out. So I won't make you watch that. You know, maybe I'll be fancy and do a fast forward. You never know how we'll feel when we're editing. It could be cool. This part's always the trickiest. I save it for last. Ta-da! So don't toss this. This is actually instructions, unless you want to keep listening to my voice over and over again. If you just trim that down, that's the simplified instructions. And I also have on the site, you probably saw if you went to print your instructions, print your pattern, that I did step-by-step video stills of the process. So maybe that's easier to see if you can't keep up with the video. Okay, so I've got my fabric, and the pattern here says cut 2. So just make sure that you have it doubled, and then you're good to go. So make sure you don't have any bumps or ridges that would make the pattern messed up. Because it's such a small pattern, just being a little bit off could make some huge problems. So take your pin cushion and we're gonna pin. Try not to ruin my tablecloth while we're at it. For years, everything I pinned was on the carpet because I didn't even have a table. And so it would be like stuck to the carpet when I tried to pull it up. And recently I made garden covers and I had that same experience because it was so big I had to go on the floor. And it was just like, oh, my back. And I tried to pick it up and the rug would be attached. All right, we're gonna cut this out. I'm gonna double check that I got far enough over. I did, it was close. Oh, and this is good. I couldn't remember where I got this fabric and now I read that it came from Joann's. So I'm gonna say that this and the blue polka dot probably both came from Joann's. So when I have them a long time, I forget where they came from. And then I feel bad when you guys ask and I'm like, I don't remember. Okay, once again, I'll speed this up because this is kind of boring to watch. So this is not a notch of any kind. This is just showing you approximately where you want to put your Velcro. And we're simply going to use that as a guide to kind of hold over our pattern when we do place our Velcro, which is coming up. So if you're following along with your printed instructions, we're starting with step 1. And that is where we're gonna sew the Velcro tabs. And one's gonna be on the right side of the fabric, so that's the pretty polka dot side. And the other is gonna be on the wrong side, and that's just the muted inner part that doesn't really have a pattern past what transfers through. So I'm taking out our pins. Now, with your pattern came this little Velcro cutting guide. Now, to disabuse you of any excitement over how awesome this is, it's basically 1 inch by 3/4 of an inch. So you don't even necessarily have to have this. You could eyeball it. I will say my first inclination when I did this was just to cut a narrow strip off the end, because you can see that's basically what Velcro is. However, I doubt you can tell this in the video, but if you get really close, there's part of the Velcro on each side that's just not sticky, fuzzy, whatever you want to call it. So that basically means that half of your Velcro is useless. So even though it hurts me because I'm so cheap, I actually made myself turn it this way. Don't use your fabric cutting scissors. You can see I've got 2 pairs out because the Velcro is nasty for scissors. It'll ruin your fabric scissors. And do not use sticky back Velcro, because not only would that ruin your scissors even further, but it will gum up your sewing machine. So go get some normal, not at all fancy. I'm gonna use this as my guide for the next piece to save time. Oops. So as you can see, these are twice as big as we need. It's not an exact science. And then if you just cut them up the middle on each piece. So 1 piece of your Velcro is rough, and you're cutting up the middle with the useless parts on each side. And I'm gonna go ahead and stick 2 of these together and just set them aside for another outfit on another day. Maybe I'll make this Barbie a tube top or something, who knows. So I'm gonna set that aside. And then I've lost, there it is. And then I'm gonna lose the one I actually needed. So once again, this is the smooth one, and there's that margin of just straight up plastic. And it's useless, and it's gonna add bulk to my garment. So boom, that's all I'm doing. I'm just trimming it down. It's like my workstation's messy already. I'm just a messy person, I guess, but it's bothering me, so I don't wanna be a messy person. Okay, so we're done with our Velcro cutting guide. We're gonna get rid of that. Okay, so I'm gonna take my beautiful purple polka dot material here, and I am gonna separate it. So if you look at the pattern piece, there's one side that's wider and taller of the pant. So I'm gonna make sure both of those wider and taller sides stay on the left. And then I'm just gonna use my pattern piece and I'm gonna line up. Doesn't really matter which side gets the smooth and which side gets the rough. I honestly haven't paid attention a single time I've sewn these pants as to which way I did that. So I'm just gonna slide this to the left a little. And I'll go, voila, that's where the Velcro goes. So I'm gonna get the paper out of the way, hold my finger to it, and put a pin in it. Velcro is also kind of rough on pins, but I'm kind of sick of these pins. I'm thinking I need pink pins. Does anyone have pink pins? Are they doing nicely for you? Every time I go into the store, I see beautiful pins, and I just kind of want them. But I can't justify getting a new one. Same thing, I'm going to line this up over here. And then hold it in place, move that out of the way. And put the pin in. Voila. So I'll show you before I get to the machine, but this stuff, it's so tiny. Maybe it's just because I have big fingers, but doll clothes, the biggest challenge is how small everything is. So normally with a strip of Velcro, I'd be able to go neatly around all four corners and it'd be great, like when I sew in a diaper or something, but this, I will try to go around all four sides, but pretty much it's gonna be like there's a kind of crazy strip going up and a not so straight strip going down. So make sure you at least go once in each direction in case some of your seams pop, because you want it to last a few wears of roughly being taken off a doll at least. So now we're onto the sewing machine. Okay, so I'm using white thread, which technically does coordinate with what I'm doing because the white is part of my material. But let's say you had blue fabric and there wasn't white on it, you would want to use blue thread so that your top stitching and all that stuff is going to be less obvious. Unless you want to use it as an accent. Yep, already it's getting off. So I'm going to turn this, and since it's already not even staying to the edge, I'm just going to come back in this other direction. Yeah, it's hard to sew Velcro. It just moves around. Alright, so you can see that's all the way through there on both sides. This is good if you just can keep trimming your threads as you go along. It's less work in the end. Alright, and then we're going to do the same thing to the other one. I actually take out my pen right before I do it because it's such a small thing. I can basically just hold my finger on it. Okay, we're going the other way. Yeah, I seriously feel like my stitches are right on top of each other with this, but it's all good. Okay, that is step number one. Step number two, I'm going to turn both pieces around to the wrong side, and we are just folding down everything that we're going to sew. Is for our hems, we're doing like 1/4 inch, and when we sew, we're going to line up with the eye of the sewing foot. So I'll show that in just a second. So you can get out a ruler, or if you have a hem gauge, if you want to be really precise, but as you can see, I'm just eyeballing it and it's all good. Just try to be consistent with both sets. 1/4-ish of an inch. Okay, all four of these sections, we're gonna do a straight stitch. I'm not worrying about back stitching on the edge because we're going to be putting a seam on the side, so it's enough to keep this tucked under. If your fabric was really wrinkly, my blue polka dot fabric, the ones I showed you at the beginning, it was very wrinkly, and I actually cared enough that I got out the iron, which I don't even iron clothing in my family unless it's like a job interview. I'm not in love with laundry. Laundry kind of annoys me. So, but when you're sewing, if it's wrinkly and you don't get it flat, there's pretty much nothing you can do on the sewing side to fix it if you've sewn it on wrinkly. So, you can see these, have a nice little seam in there. Just a straight line across. We're going to do the same thing to the other set. This is a very fast project. Wasn't fast to design, but it should be really fast for you guys because I worked out all the bugs already. Here's the last one. That. Okay. Step number 3, we are going to match up with the right sides of the fabric touching. So the pretty purple polka dots. My threads are getting crazy already. I'm breaking my own rule. So just to point out, you should have one piece of Velcro on the rough side and one side on the pretty side, or the right side. And I'm going to put a pin sideways right beneath my Velcro, because we're not going to sew past that point. If you've ever made leggings, the way these jeans are constructed is very similar. And if you wanted to be fancy before this point, you could stitch it where it looks like you've got pockets and a fly, like a button-down fly and all that stuff. I think those are cute, but I didn't feel it was worth the effort to add personally. But that's a way you could really jazz these up. Okay, so we're gonna start, and once again, if you get right in here, we are gonna line up with the right side. There's like the oval cutout in the presser foot. So the side of our fabric is lined up with the right side of that oval. I'm gonna get that needle down, and then I'm gonna move this pin out before I make a big mess and have to change my needle out. Though I probably should change my needle out. It's been quite a few projects since I have. Okay, I'm just slowly curving around. If you need to pause, make sure you've got the needle down before you try lifting the presser foot, and that would allow you to rotate pretty darn easily. I'll do that again. I'll rotate that presser foot, just always making sure the edge of the fabric is lined up with that little oval hole in the presser foot. And we're coming around the final corner here. I am going to back step it a little, so I'm going to press the reverse button and go back, and that just reinforces that area, because this is a pretty stressed area. This is right in the front of your garment on the waistband, so you want to make sure that that doesn't pop. Take a moment and cut some threads here, like I told you to do. You know, consistency, all that stuff. Okay. We've got that done. Once you have sewn from the bottom of the Velcro around that curve, we're gonna put in like 3 or 4 notches. So make sure when you do a notch that you don't actually cut into the seam that you just sewed. So I'm just gonna cut maybe halfway into that. This is gonna allow the fabric to move. This is the crotch section of the pants, and if you don't have these notches, it's gonna be hard to get those pants to come up and down, because Barbie, unlike a human body, is hard, unrelenting plastic, so she doesn't want to flow with her pants. So once you have done this curve, just to give you a sneak peek, starts to look like pants around that point. We are going to do the same thing for the bottom hem that we did for the waist hem. So these are the 2 bottom sections. We're going to turn under about 1/4 of an inch. So this is totally backwards, like you've made, if you've made pants or skirts or anything before, like for an adult size, the last thing you're gonna do is put the hems in, because, you know, maybe you attached it in such and such way along the sides, and, you know, it's the last step you would do. But Barbie clothing is so small that we're gonna do this first, or we'll never get it in the sewing machine. So we're gonna do the same thing we did for the top hem. We're gonna just go in and do a straight stitch. Uh-oh, I was naughty. I got off a little bit. And if you do that, you know, you could get a seam ripper to make sure it's perfectly straight. Or you could say, you know, it's tiny and it doesn't really matter. That's what I'm gonna do. So, you know, I'll point out my own mistakes. You can see there's an extraneous line here. Oh, judge me if you will. But I'm moving on. I had to do a lot of seam ripping earlier. My machine was throwing stitches where like the tension was off. I blame little children's hands that find my machines fascinating. All right, doing the same thing on the other side. Believe it or not, we are actually almost done. We have one more step. So we just did step number 5, which is to sew under the bottom hem. Guess we'll snip our threads. Okay, this step's a little wonky. Once again, if you've made leggings before, this is gonna make a lot more sense to you. But, got it like this. Wrong side's facing out. We are going to take and kind of bend, and we're gonna have both top hems. So you see the front panel is actually not as wide as the back panel, and that's okay, and you'll have both of your Velcro tabs in the back. So that's what it should look like. Now we're gonna match up the top hem on one side, because we've already hemmed it over, so we want it to match up on this section. And this is one of those things where this isn't even a stretchy fabric, but you're gonna have to stretch it a little bit just to get it to line up. You can see the back piece is slightly bigger, so you just kind of give it a little gentle tug and it'll stretch a little, even though it's not stretchy fabric. I would not recommend one of my earlier prototypes of these pants. I tried to just use an old pair of jeans from one of my girls, and I'm doing the other side now. It was too thick. I just did not feel it looked good. It was bulky. So you could obviously go buy fabric that looks like a jean material if you really want those jeans, or I just decided to have fun and use bright, gaudy colors because that's my thing. But whatever you want your look to be, go for that, but just keep it thin. You can see this is very thin material. And then once again, I'm gonna stretch gently and poke myself with the pin and try not to cry. Okay, and then I'm gonna, normally I wouldn't use this many pins for such a short area, but once again, everything is on a tiny scale with Barbie clothes. Okay, so I've got both sides pinned, and we're gonna get in here and sew. Keep leaving my needle in the down position. What am I thinking? Okay, once again, I am going to get started lined up with the right here, and I'm gonna reverse and reinforce that area because this is the top of your pants. Getting that pin out of the way. Next, just stay lined up on the right and feed her through. I forgot to mention it earlier, but if you haven't seen it already, I have a Barbie dress pattern that you might like, as well as I did a paper mache. I have like a printable pattern where I did a Barbie bathtub. So we love the Barbies. They're fun. I used to have a playroom when I was growing up, and it was built into this space underneath the staircase. So it's like a useless space unless you're a child. And it was pretty awesome. I had a disgusting amount of toys down there. But it was like Barbietopia, you know. The dollhouse, just endless amounts of stuff. Okay, now is the tricky part where we have to, well, obviously we'll snip our threads again, but we have to try to turn this inside out. Oh, side note at this point, once again, we know I'm kind of a minimalist. If this was an actual pair of clothing, I would tell you to trim this down to half the width of the seam and to do a zigzag at the very least so it would last forever. As this is a Barbie outfit, I am not really concerned with it lasting forever because this only took a few minutes to make, and children's attention spans are short, to say the least. So I figure by the time this breaks, we're all sick of it anyway. So I'm using scissors, which is probably not the best thing. I generally use crochet hooks or pencils to turn things, but I forgot to grab one of those. I also have this really cool tool from like the 80s called a fast turn, and it's specifically for turning seam casings, but that would be digging it out of a tub, and I don't feel like doing that. So there's one side done. Let's get the other side done. Please don't use scissors and cut yourself. You know, do what I say, not what I do. That's my parenting, right? It's bad parenting and it's bad instructing right now. Okay, because you could totally slit your finger, even with closed scissors. Which I should know. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, this scar right here, that's from a potato peeler. This scar's from a plastic fork on one of these hands. Right there. So anyway, if you can hurt yourself on it, I've done it. Okay, I am not going to spend any more of your time snipping threads, but I still see some more. Let's see, you know, someone stole Barbie's top, so just try not to look at that, you know. Excuse me for the senseless nudity going on here. Oh, gotta get that foot through. Dun, 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 dun. And you gotta really wiggle. I made them skinny jeans because for my children, if they're not skinny jeans, they're just not cool right now. So, get that up in there. This one's having a little bit of gaping this time. Oh, it's a different Barbie. I'm telling you, not all Barbie butts are the same. So, just to show you with something so small, the difference it can make. So this pair, it's different fabric, it's a different Barbie, and I feel like it's gaping a little. I mean, it's not huge, but I feel like it's gaping. So what I would do if you're having that problem where it's gaping, the quick fix would be to turn this under like this, like take the seam ripper, get that piece of Velcro off, just turn that fabric under and reattach it like that. And then voila, no gaping. Let's say you have the other problem. Let's say it's too tight and Barbie's got some major crack going on and you're embarrassed. Work in here and try to do a smaller seam allowance, okay? Same thing, you can't pull up Barbie's pants, you know. Some of that could be fixed by trimming down, like I said, halfway up the seam allowance. So you may have a Barbie from a different era, you may have Barbies of different shapes, but pretty much any problem can be solved by either making a wider seam allowance. So like instead of a 1/4 inch seam, you know, taking it like half again as wide to make that bigger. And if it's too big, and make your seam allowances smaller in that area. Anyway, I'm gonna let it be done though, because this was just my second pair here and I've already got the perfect pair over here. So, all right, there's my finger censoring here. We've got the purple pants. We've got the blue pants. We are rainbow-tastic. And isn't it creepy how much Barbie looks like Barbie, but doesn't at the same time? Am I alone here? It's like they were made from the same mold, but not. All right, so I hope that helped, especially the troubleshooting, since this Barbie butt's not the same as that Barbie butt, and they're both newish Barbies, so. Or if you get off just a little, but isn't it cute? They are, you know, almost skin tight jeggings, and yeah, if you have the gaping, fold it over, do that. If it's too short, you need to take stuff out of the seam allowance, depending on the size of your doll, because, you know, this pattern could easily be used for a non-name brand Barbie as well, but you want to have it where it's nice and snug in there so that it doesn't gape, just like this one is nice and snug. So, huzzah! Oh, Barbie's losing her top. It's about to get inappropriate in here, so I'm gonna end it there. Okay, we're all done. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this free pattern. Share it with your friends. Make it for your kids, grandkids, nieces, whatever. I think this would be a great if you have older children. what I'm planning to do is to put some small pieces of fabric in the free pattern, so you don't even have to make it. If you have a crafter in the house, give them the pattern and the materials and let them make their own Barbie pants. My second eldest daughter, middle child, she doesn't really play with Barbies anymore, but she is like a fashion designer and she loves to make this stuff. So needle and thread, she's in there. She doesn't have sewing machine authorization yet, but this is really fun for her. So I was hoping to get this up in time for you guys to be able to do stuff for Christmas, but I'm a loser and I don't think that's gonna happen. So, you know, next Christmas, birthdays in between, random gifts for fun. I do think these would make great stocking stuffers, but probably too late for you guys. As I'm filming this, I think we're 9 days away from Christmas and we're slow editors, like super slow. As you can see how slow our videos have been lately. A little embarrassing. Anyway, whenever you make it, whatever you make it for, I hope you guys enjoy it. And I've missed you guys. Please leave me a comment. Tell me what you've been up to. And that's it for now. I mean, I have to decide what we're gonna do next. I'm really indecisive this week. I don't know. You guys have anything you really want me to make? Once again, leave me a comment and hound me. Have a nice day. Oh, and if you haven't already, please subscribe.